Hi, I'm David Essel. This subject is really sensitive. It's incredibly painful for many people to even think about, but there is success, and there is an incredible story I'm going to share with you about recovering from a rape. Over the last 25 years, there has not been a subject that we haven't tackled in our counseling and coaching work here. It doesn't matter. People from Australia have contacted us about being sexually molested by family members 20 years ago. We've had people contact us in the United States about overcoming the traumatization of rape or sexual molestation as adults. It's just incredible how many people that we've helped. Young girls that have been raped by young boys and not being able to get out of the house. And I'm going to share with you what our principles have been and how we've helped so many people to do what many people say is almost impossible. Of course, the trauma creates PTSD, and within that PTSD is a whole other range of symptoms. It's psychological, it's physiological, it's emotional, mental, it's everything wrapped into one, and it's something you don't want to wish on anyone, and you just pray that these things could never happen again. If there was a way that collectively we could pray, and in those prayers would be answers, that there would never be any kind of sexual molestation or rape or incest ever to happen again in this world, that would be one of the most beautiful prayers that we could pray. The reality right now is that hasn't happened yet, and I'm going to share a couple stories, and the end results are really quite magical, but they're very, very traumatic to even think about. About 10 years ago, a woman came to us, and she was in her early 40s, and 10 years before that, she'd been brutally raped and left for dead in a car garage. And she had gone through 10 years of traditional psychotherapy and was still agoraphobic, could not leave her house unless it was an emergency, such as getting meals once a week or something like that. Was on disability insurance. Her world had caved in. Was on more antidepressants and more anti-anxiety, combined with sleep medication, would have dreams and hallucinations about the attack. And there's just nothing that ever worked for her. And she was becoming so hopeless, as anyone would in that situation. So she had been recommended to come on into our office, and we do Skype, we do phone, we do office work, and she was about an hour and a half drive away, and that just seemed impossible. There was no way. Very first time she comes, she takes a taxi. An hour and a half taxi drive to come into the office. An hour and a half taxi. I don't even know what it cost, but it was incredible. And in the very first day, she sat in the office, and she really didn't talk too much. Her hands were shaking. She was anxious. She was nervous. But something happened within that session that she felt she could trust for whatever reason. And she came back the next week and the next week and the next week. As we were working on these issues, I had asked her what type of recovery that she had gone. What were the exercises in recovery? And she told me all the traditional ones. And then I asked her a question that I thought was going to be quite normal. And I said, have you relived the experience? And she said, no, and I really don't want to. Well, there's a form of work called desensitization. And in desensitization, we do what we'd rather not do. We go back into the experience. And in our work, in our own personal experience of 25 years, it has to be done in writing. It can't just be where someone verbally recounts the attack. And it's brutally painful for the subject, the client, to go through this type of exercise. And she was resistant, so we didn't push. She said, whenever you're ready, we'll do it. We worked for another number of months. We did everything in the world, emotional freedom technique or tapping. We did aromatherapy. We did amino acids. We did all of these different things. And she was starting to see improvement. The agoraphobia was starting to drop. She was actually walking around her neighborhood in broad daylight, which she hadn't done in years. So we were seeing great improvement. She ended up coming in twice a week, and once a week just wasn't enough for her. She came in twice a week, and a little bit later, after she started doing double sessions, she said, I think I'm ready to write. And oh my Lord, a cascade came out of her like I had never seen before. In the writing process, she went back from everything that she could recall and recalled every event, from going into the parking garage to being grabbed to everything you can imagine. And in the first couple times that she was writing it, when she would come back in and read it, it was an absolute meltdown, which we expected. But she was so incredibly ready. She was so strong. Now remember, she had gone through almost 8 or 10 years of traditional psychotherapy before she came into our office. So there was a foundation that she had built. If she was brand new and had never worked with anyone before, we still would have had the same positive end result. But by the fact that she had already learned that she can trust counselors and coaches and she can share the most frightening experiences ever, I know that really helped. But we had her go into it, and then we had her do a more of a series of exercises once she got through the writing, and she was actually able to read to me the stories over and over and over again. She got to a point where that she was not traumatized by that very event that she couldn't even breathe or talk about a number of months earlier. I share this story with you, and there's much more that I won't go into, because today, a number of years, now that was 10 years ago, it looks like, today she's off of all medication. She is on amino acids and herbal supplementations for anxiety and depression, but there's no negative side effects from those supplements. She's a radically changed woman. She's looking at getting into a relationship, which she said when she first started work with me that would never happen again. There's all kinds of incredibleness that come out, but I want to say this. It's not easy. It is work. She had to commit an immense amount of time, effort, and money into herself to get to this level of recovery. If you know anyone who was molested as a child, who was raped in their teens or as an adult, who's traumatized still, male or female, let them know about the work that we do. We're not perfect, but we do have huge success rates with people that have experienced all kinds of trauma. We work with people that have had financial trauma, that have gone through divorces and lost everything, that have lost their homes, that have had their homes foreclosed. That's an incredible amount of trauma. We work with people that have gone through all kinds of physical trauma, recovering from cancers and accidents. And, trauma is one of those things that comes in so many different forms and faces. And every one of them is challenging. But the great news is that there's an opportunity for success. Don't forget to join this YouTube channel that we have right here, and go to our website, talkdavid.com. There are books for free and videos for free, and we have a brand new book out about the myth of positive thinking and the reality of success that you can get chapter 1 absolutely free to see if it's something that might work with you. But whatever you do, if you face trauma, returning from a war, if you face trauma of any type, don't try to heal on your own. There are millions of people like me out there. I'm not the only one that can do this. There are millions of people like me out there that want to help. Don't isolate, because that's one of the things that all trauma victims do. We have shame, we have guilt, we have fear, and we create an isolated atmosphere where we don't have to share and don't have to trust. The healing is the exact opposite of that, okay? Again, talkdavid.com. I'm with you, and prayers are sent for everyone and their families who have suffered any kind of trauma whatsoever. Have a wonderful day.